Hi guys, what's up? How you are doing? Welcome back to another interesting video. Today's video is actually from Good Morning Britain. It's an old video, but I feel like it is still very relevant in today's world, and it's coming from Good Morning Britain. It is titled Gender Neutral Family Are Raising Their Kids, their child as they buy. Good Morning Britain. Gender neutral family are raising their child as they buy. Let's find out what's going on in this video. Before we dive into it, I'm Oge. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time here, so happy to have you here. Do well to like, share, subscribe, turn on post notification bell. Let's quickly see this together.
We have heard of people who identify as non-binary using the pronoun they or their instead of he or she. But what about this? Having a theyby instead of a baby. It's a new term that some parents are using to show that they're bringing up their offspring gender neutral. It's a very interesting situation.
Very interesting.
Just tell us a little bit about Sparrow. Are you able to even say how Sparrow was, what gender Sparrow was born, or is that something you avoid talking about altogether?
Well, the whole point of gender is that we don't know Sparrow's gender yet. As far as what their anatomy is, we do choose to keep that private, to a short list of caregivers.
Now, this was not the situation, was it, with Hazel, who was your first child? Because Hazel, yes, you did bring up in, as a little girl.
Well, I did assign binary pronouns to Hazel initially, yes. And then when they were older, they articulated a preference for using they, them pronouns.
Right, just so I get my head around all this, it's obviously very complicated. Not to you, but it's complicated to me. So let me try and just lay this out. Explain your domestic setup. You're married, is that right?
Yes, I'm in a multi-adult family. There's 3 of us that are raising 2 children, an 8-year-old and my 1-year-old.
And how would you describe yourself? You were born biologically male, or how would you describe
I'm non-binary. Yeah, I'm non-binary, which means that I don't identify as a man or a woman, and I use they, them pronouns.
Okay, and your wife or partner, is it a wife? How would you describe your other half?
Well, all of the adults in my household identify as transgender or non-binary.
Right, and you're only married to one, or you're married to both?
Legally married to one,
right,
in a relationship with another.
So the one you're legally married to, what is their name?
Bren.
Bren, and Bren identifies as?
A woman.
Uses
woman. She, her.
And she was born a woman and remains identifying as a woman?
Yeah. Yeah, she's a woman. Yeah.
Okay, and who's the third member of the setup?
My partner Luna, who uses they them pronouns as well.
And Luna is male or female, or
non-binary?
Non-binary. And okay, but you're not married to Luna.
No.
Okay, and you have 2 children in the house.
Yes.
Okay, and just to clarify again, Sparrow. We don't know whether Sparrow was born male or female because you haven't said that. But Sparrow is now non-binary?
No. Sparrow is, I would say, antigender, which is a term, that means before gender. Like, all children, at this age are developmentally not able to really understand gender yet. It's just something that they don't have the understanding for. So it's not that the child is non-binary, it's that the child just doesn't have any gender yet.
Right, but the child, look, let me try and get my head around this.
Obviously they do have anatomy.
It's confusing.
Right, so what anatomy does Sparrow have?
Well, that's something that we don't usually discuss unless it's necessary with maybe a medical professional or, a caregiver.
Right, so...
Ari, I just wonder if I can intervene here, because I think that a lot of people find this very confusing. And it's because people think that if you are born with biological anatomy that indicates that you're either male or female, then therefore you have that gender identity. You're a man or a woman. But can you explain why you think that isn't helpful, that the anatomy that you are born with biologically shouldn't dictate your identity? Because I think that's the sort of bigger point that your situation is trying to get to, isn't it? That when you're born with certain genitals, society decides how you should act. And as far as I'm trying to understand it, that is what you're railing against. Am I right?
Yes, it's a great question and a great clarification. What it is that, yes, commonly people born with one type of anatomy will identify with one gender, people with different anatomy will identify with another, but that totally negates the fact that there are legitimately thousands of people all over the world for whom that is not the case.
So what I would say, Ari, just in from that point of view, you're not necessarily dictated to by society. I mean, if you have a little girl and, she's biologically a girl, she can decide and still be a she. This is, I'm putting this to you.
I don't think you can't call her a she, though. Sparrow's not a she,
No,
right?
I know. So let's talk about a different little girl or another child.
We don't know if Sparrow's she or he.
No, that is true. So I'm talking about a little girl whose parents do call her a she. She doesn't necessarily need to, for instance, play with dolls, do cooking lessons and wear pink.
Gender
she just
expression.
Doesn't have to.
Yeah, gender expression is totally different from gender identity. Someone can identify as a boy and, like any color, any toy, sports, dance, pink, blue, whatever. And same with identifying as a girl or non-binary. People's interests or hobbies or preferences don't dictate what their gender is.
When did
Sparrow
Hazel
having a preference?
Yeah, when did Hazel decide that she was no longer going to be a girl?
Hazel decided that they were non-binary when they were about 4. They had been exploring gender before that, trying on different pronouns,
4 years
experimenting
old.
with different names. But they picked they, them pronouns and chose the name Hazel when they were 4
Ari,
years old.
with the greatest of respect, I have a 7-year-old daughter, right? When she was 4 years old, her main decision of the day was whether to watch Peppa Pig or Frozen. She had not a clue what about gender identity or non-binary or any of this stuff. And I put it to you that this wasn't Hazel's idea, was it? This was your idea.
It can't
You
be
decided
Hazel's
that Hazel
idea.
had gender issues that she needed to address, and you persuaded your daughter that she was no longer to be a girl, didn't she?
I personally don't agree with that assertion, but I can see how that could be misconstrued. I think that every family environment is unique. And say a child becomes a concert pianist very young, age 6, they're playing Beethoven. Well, maybe is it because their father is a pianist and they had a piano in the home and they explored music earlier. Hazel has a unique education because living in an LGBT family, they have met people of different gender expressions and have been safe to explore their own gender, which has led them to a personal discovery. Does that mean that I forced them? No, of course not.
Isn't this just utterly exhausting, trying to keep up with all this?
For a
A lot of it, I've got no
honestly.
problem with you
It's
leading any life you
exhausting.
like. Honestly, I haven't. You're a fully
For a
grown
child,
adult. You want to call
honestly.
yourself they and non-binary, whatever it is. I have total respect for your rights, frankly, to do whatever you want to do. My issue is what's happening with the kids in your household and whether actually it's all being driven by the adults in the home and not these children. Little Sparrow, we don't even know if Little Sparrow is a girl or boy, and you say we now have to call Sparrow they. And Hazel, what does Hazel call Sparrow?
Their baby sibling.
Their baby, so she literally says, "Good morning, baby sibling."
Well, usually by name, like "Good morning, Sparrow." But when someone asks, who is that? You say, "My baby sibling." Yeah.
And does Hazel call Sparrow they?
Yes.
They. So she says, "They, can I play a game with you?" They.
Well, not when talking to them. When talking to them, they would say you, like, "Would you like to share a cookie with me, Sparrow?" And Sparrow would, of course, because they're a baby.
But if I'm in the room and I want to have a cookie and I ask Hazel, "Can I have a cookie?" and she says yes, I'll just ask they, right? Sparrow. Is that how it works?
Them.
I'll ask them.
Ask them.
Yeah, you would say. So Hazel might say, "I'll ask them if they want to share."
Here's what I don't get though, because they and them are plural words, and I've always struggled with this. I don't understand why in this non-binary world you would take a plural word like them or they
Well, 'cause it
to describe a
encompasses both
singular
genders,
entity. It
doesn't
doesn't
it?
make any. I'm a grammatical purist. I don't really understand from a grammatical point
that's
of view
totally reasonable.
why you would call people by plural titles.
Well, they actually has a history of being used as a singular pronoun as well as a plural pronoun. Back, hundreds of years ago, 14th century, 1700s, people used they singularly as well. But yeah, in common usage, they does have a plural connotation. We are just working within the limited framework of the pronouns available to us in English.
Yeah.
There are
Ari-
people who use invented pronouns, but those sometimes can be difficult for people to navigate.
Ari, I wonder whether when, because it's complicated for an adult like me to get my head round, and I'm doing my absolute, best to be sensitive and understanding about it, because it's, I think a lot of people find it difficult,
confusing
to understand.
Yeah.
When it comes to children, because if you've got a child of 4 who's growing up, it must be difficult for them to try and express that to other adults who don't understand your setup and don't understand the situation. And when other adults say, if you've got a little brother or a little sister, how does a small child explain that, perhaps to other children that they're at nursery with?
That's a great question. Hazel is very confident, very verbose, and very well-spoken, and they enjoy advocating for the visibility of their family, and they enjoy engaging their peers and adults in conversation. Obviously, I've never forced them into a spotlight, and I've told them that they can always choose to disengage when they don't want to over-explain themselves. But to them, it's pretty simple to say, "Oh, we don't know Sparrow's gender yet. They're going to tell us when they're older. Right now, we use they/them pronouns."
What happens if Sparrow decides? How old is Sparrow? She's 4 now, right? Or they is 4. They is 4.
Sparrow is 1 year old.
Sparrow. Sorry, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Morgan.
Hazel is 4, and Sparrow is 1.
Hazel
right?
is 8.
Okay.
Hazel has been
eight.
non-binary for 4 years.
Hazel changed her gender at 4, but is now 8, and Sparrow is 1.
Yeah.
What happens if Hazel decides tomorrow she would now like to be a girl or a boy? I don't.
Well, then I would support that. Hazel, is totally allowed to continue to explore their gender and have it evolve. Gender isn't always a static thing for some people.
And what is Sparrow?
Being
what is
non-binary
Sparrow?
and using they/them is what they want right now.
Okay, and if Sparrow, when she gets to say 3 or even 2, when they can first start to talk, if her first words are, "I want to be non-binary," or "I want to be a boy," or "I want to be a girl," would you just respect anything that a 2-year-old child would say? You accepted a 4-year-old's insistence on changing gender. Would you accept a 2-year-old?
I would accept that child was exploring. I think that at that age, gender
Ari, a child of 2 is in
not
no.
set in stone.
I'm sorry to be the stick in the mud here. A 2-year-old kid hasn't got a Scooby-Doo about any of this stuff. The idea that you would literally, the idea that you would even,
if my
the
kid
idea
said
that
they
you as
wanted
a
to pretend to
parent,
be
I'm sorry,
Scooby-Doo,
but
I would play along.
Let me just
follow the child.
The idea that you as a parent would even countenance the idea that a 2-year-old child has any ability to form any serious perception of gender, I think, frankly, I put it to you respectfully, is utterly ridiculous and actually damaging to that child.
Well, then in that case, if a 2-year-old child, as you say, genuinely has no ability to conceptualize gender, isn't it toxic and bizarre that at 2, we are telling someone, you are a boy because of your anatomy? If that 2-year-old genuinely can't conceptualize of what a boy is, isn't it make more sense that if a 2-year-old genuinely has no ability to process what a gender is, as you said, that I don't, tell them what their gender is, and I don't emphasize gender constantly. I let them be what they are, which is a toddler.
Say you offer structure. What could be more of a structure than actually saying to your child, this is your name and that's your name? And if when you get to be an adult, you want to change your name, then you become your own adult, your own responsibility, you take your own decisions. Part of being a parent is until a child reaches adult age, actually the parent takes these decisions. What are you
That's
doing as a
reasonable,
parent?
but I guess
as a parent, you're
my
saying just get on
opinion
with it.
is that I feel that what you're expressing is a bit of childism, which is assuming that someone has to be a legal adult to have the capacity to know themselves.
Childism is a new one.
And I think
All
a
right.
child
I've heard just
can explore identity.
All right, Ari, I've heard just about every ism imaginable. I've never heard.
Every ism, to
I've
be
been
honest.
accused of every ism, and I'm struggling with this new world of isms. Right? What is childism?
You're against children making their own decisions.
What?
I believe that, well, childism is the normalization of the mistreatment of children just because they're young. You know, like assuming that they can't have opinions or ideas, you know, that they can't, you know, obviously they do need guidance and structure, but mistreating them or treating them like property or denying their identity and autonomy.
So, giving a child a gender because of its anatomy, assuming that they're boy or girl, or giving them a name, all that would be childism from your point of view.
Not giving them, but forcing them to use them regardless of what the child wanted.
So if a 3-year-old child decides, I'm no longer a boy or girl, I'm no longer going to be called Bob, I want to be called Doris, whatever it may be, if a 3-year-old child decides to do that, and I object and say, no, your name is Bob, not Doris, and you're a boy, not a girl, at 3, then I'm guilty of childism.
Potentially, yes.
You guys, I am as confused as you guys. If you understand whatever is going on here, please let's know in the comment section. I am so confused. I've heard childism, I've heard they them pronoun, I've heard non-binary, I've heard transgender, I've heard LGBTQ. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's bulky. That's a lot to take in. I'm as confused as Piers Morgan. So there's something I love about Piers Morgan. He asks questions that the audience want to ask, because he was trying to break it down. Okay, let's us understand what's going on. So he started breaking it down and asking her, oh, what is your gender? She said she's non-binary, meaning she doesn't identify as either a man or a woman. You get, which is, I don't know how to feel about that. Anyway, and then she went ahead to say, oh, she has a wife who she's married to, a woman, a biological female. And then she has another relationship who is also non-binary. Now they have 2 kids, Hazel and Sparrow. Hazel is 8, who started to identify as they, them, right? They as non-binary at 4. And then Sparrow doesn't have a gender yet. They're waiting for Sparrow to grow, saying 3 years, because according to them, Hazel identified himself at 4. So probably Sparrow will also grow and identify himself when he's probably 4. Then he can now have a gender. At the moment, Hazel, who is 1 year old, who probably has a gender, doesn't have a gender. It is so confusing, honestly. And I feel like I love the question Piers Morgan asked. He was like, okay, if they go to nursery, they're trying to play, you know, with other children who most probably have their genders, boy and girl, and then they are asked questions, and what would be their response? All she said was that, or what he said, the person, I don't know, the non-binary lady or man said, was that their children, Hazel, is very confident. He can express himself. But don't you guys think that is too bulky for a 8-year-old child or a 4-year-old? Let's say from 4. How do you think that a 4-year-old child, most 4-year-old children, they are still trying to decide, oh, what does this child like to eat? We are not sure. He takes cereal today, tomorrow he takes another cereal, his tummy is not yet settled, we are still trying to understand what he likes to eat, we are still giving him we're still trying to see if he starts, like in Africa they start giving kids solid at say 1 year old. They start taking solid food. They start eating things like rice, like grains. They can start taking solid food. You understand what I mean? And not just milk. And so even at 4, there are some kids that the parents are still trying to understand what my child eats and what he doesn't eat. Or he takes this to daycare and then he brings it back, meaning he doesn't like this particular fruit. Okay, we're still trying to, because he can't probably express himself so much. That is a 4-year-old you think can identify his gender. I feel like it is too, if you ask me, I think it is too bulky for a child. Even a teenager. I feel like, let them just be toddlers. Let them have the gender that was assigned to them at birth. Not assigned to them, the gender they were born with. Their biological gender that they were born. Let them just have that. If they're born with a penis, he's a boy. If she's born with the female organ, then he's a girl. She's a girl. Let them have that. Grow up like normal children without having to be exposed to different I don't even know. She said Hazel has been exposed to different genders and different number, whatever it was, and so he was able. That was when he was able to pick. Okay, he wants to be non-binary. He doesn't want to be a boy and a girl. It's so confusing for me. But if you know what is going on here, you can break it down, especially if you fall under this category. Probably a gender neutral family. You have, what I want to say honestly, I don't think you guys will like it, because I don't know, kids are not supposed to be exposed to things like this. Let them grow. Let them be. If adults come out to say, oh, I want to identify as a pussycat, I'm all for you. I support you. You're an adult. You can make your decision. You will enjoy the consequences when the time is there. Okay, whatever you want to identify as, that is good for you. You're an adult. You can make your decisions, isn't it? Yeah, but a child who doesn't even know his left from his right, who still needs tutelage, who still needs correction, who still needs to be nurtured, who still needs to be taught, still needs direction, is who you are asking to identify something as important as his gender. I don't think it's okay for children. I think children should still I still think children still should be children. Let them enjoy their childhood, be kids, play, enjoy them. Because at 4, I bet you even 4-year-old children that still go to school just go to school to play and enjoy themselves. Go to school, play, eat, come back home. Go to school, play, eat, come back. Probably learn 1 or 2 words, or identify 1 or 2 colors, or identify 1 or 2 letters, and then they come back home to play. That's what a 4-year-old knows. All they want to do is to watch Cocomelon. All they want to do is actually play. All they want to do is actually eat sweets and play in the sand, go to the beach with their parents, just enjoy their childhood. That's what children wants to do. Not giving them the weighty and bulky decision to decide whether they are male or female or transgender or non-binary. Imagine a 4-year-old boy says, oh, I don't want to be a boy anymore, I want to be a girl. Will you go ahead and turn that 4-year-old boy into a girl? I don't know, it just feels somehow. Maybe because I'm African and I'm black and things like this is very weird in my ears, So that's why it's so weird, honestly. But I would love to know your opinions and what you think about this in the comment section. Let's try to be very respectful in our comments and pass whatever information you want to pass respectfully. Would really appreciate it. We are here to learn and to grow. Okay, this is just to learn and to grow. No criticizing, no vile comments and all of that. I would really appreciate it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Turn on your post notification bell, subscribe to this channel, very, very, very important. Drop your comment, like, share with your friends, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.